So, Peter, thank you for joining us today on the Gyms Group podcast. Now, you're from the Gyms Carpet Cleaning Division, but you've been with us more than 20 years. And I think we connected because of the TikTok, and I've watched some of your stuff, and I thought it'd be great to have you on to talk about some business advice, because not only do you do Gyms Carpet Cleaning, you do a few other ventures as well, which is really relevant to our franchise owners. You've got a lot of experience, so I want to get out of you. But first, before we continue with the business advice, just want to ask you about how did you get involved with the Gyms Group and what kept you around for so long?
Oh, that's an awesome question. I was invited out to a business dinner one night, and there was this really interesting fellow there, which I'd never met before. We ended up just talking about favourite books. And along the way, about halfway through the night, I go, by the way, what's your name? He goes, oh, Jim. He goes, what's yours? Pete. And as we chatted, we discovered we liked a lot of the same books, and we thought in many areas the same way. And it was values-based. It was structure. It was on how we live our life. I discovered that it was Jim Penman. And someone said, didn't you know who he was? And I go, like, who is he? He goes, Jim's mowing. I go, doesn't he have a big bushy beard? And that is actually my first contact point. And I was running a business at the time. It was a company we did commercial, industrial and retail cleaning and maintenance. And they had an issue at Gyms National at the time, which was in Bayswater. And no one at that time could resolve some of the issues they were having. So we came in, sorted it out relatively quickly, got to know Jim a little bit. And then one day when I was on site, he said, do you want to become a master? And I looked at him and go, master? I go, was that some like ninja warrior? I had never heard of it. I still didn't know anything about gyms itself. And he explained it to me, and they were looking at growing their cleaning division. And I said, listen, I need time to think about it. I need to speak to my wife. He goes, okay then. And I reckon I was in the car about 5 minutes to get a phone call. He goes, so have you made up your mind yet? And so I said, look, give me a week. And that's literally how I came into the business. And look, I met some really great people, but it was largely predicated on Jim's value structure. And, you know, as you get to know Jim, he's a very unique thinker. And it was just so many of those sorts of things that actually made sense to me. But it was based on his values. It was based on, if we're going to offer services, let's just be really good at it. And that just resonated with me all the way.
Now, for anyone wondering, master is a term, would have been master franchisee. Franchisor, which we call regional franchisor now or franchisor now, but master's a bit of an old school term as well. And Jim calling within 5 minutes to take up an offer that he's put to you 5 minutes ago is quite common. He's not a man of many patience in some regards, so that's what generally happens. And back then, did you just come in? Did you have to do the training back then, or did you still have to do the generic training then, or were you able to go straight into it because of your business?
Yeah, I'd probably. Geez, I can't even remember. I think there might have been a little bit of training around, might have just been half a day or a day. It was on the basics. And I suspect at the time they were still establishing what all that was about. And you got to remember back then that Jim's Mowing was a predominant business. So when we had our franchisor meetings, it was like, 6 million mowing franchisors, and there was a few of us. And I still remember them talking about how to market to clients and, what should we do with Mrs. Jones. And I sat there, just died. A bunch of them thought it was a really good idea to have Jim's stubby holders. And I actually said to them, I go, this is what you're going to give Mrs. Jones. A free stubby holder with Jim's face on it, who doesn't even drink.
That's true.
Yeah, you're going to go with that. And so that set a cat amongst the pigeons. But that was my sort of first foray into meetings and the like.
Well, you've been around for many years. So, yes, back in the day, obviously, when the new division started coming in, Jim's Mowing obviously was the foundational brand. And it would have been a bit hard back in the day, especially with just getting used to it while we're doing all these other things as well. But obviously now all the other divisions are more than Jim's Mowing. So Jim's Mowing is less than 50% of the business. It's Jim's Cleaning Group and Jim's Fencing and Dog Wash, what have you. So it's more of a Jim's Group now as opposed to what it was then.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say then, with your business in the early days, how was it back in the early days, back 20 years ago? Was Jim's Online around, or we didn't have that yet, or how was that?
No, I don't recall it being online. I still remember the early website.
Yes.
And it was as clunky It was all get out. I think predominantly that yellow pages were the driving force.
Yep.
So gyms had a really good presence. I actually do remember when yellow pages went online, gyms had a presence there. And it was an interesting thing that we used to get a lot of calls. And back in the day, Yellow Pages used to have this saying, let your fingers do the walking. Because gyms had such a strong brand and cut through, a lot of people used gyms, in that same way to, let their fingers do the walking, contact gyms and just see what comes next. And so we had market presence, but I still think I know I was, but a lot of us were still discovering, okay, so we're known, what do we do with it now? How do we compete in the marketplace? And I think there was a sense of, as soon as you stick gym stickers on the car, that people are going to be begging you to take money. What I come to realise is that we had much higher responsibility and people weren't necessarily willing to give us money for that. We had to compete. And the reason we had to compete is you still had your local papers, which was, a lot of leads would come through that as well. And so you had people who were very cost driven. So for instance, we take carpet cleaning. So back then, people were doing like 5 rooms for $50. I still remember it was 2001, 5 rooms for $50, which had sort of been around since the early 70s. And then we went through a bit of a dip in the economy, and then it was like 5 rooms for 41, and then 5 rooms for 39. And so just having gyms branding didn't necessarily get you the job, but it actually took me a little bit of time to say, okay, it is a brand. This is what we're going to promise you when we do the job. So immediately you're either going to get people's focus off the bargain basement and educate them, or rightly so, you would just automatically get rid of those who were just, buying at the cheapest level. And so I think the group, with their branding, has come to understand that much better over time. Obviously I've seen a lot of you on TikTok. Jim does some great podcasts. He's often on 3AW. When he's on 3AW with Tom's quite entertained.
True.
By Tim. But Jim, so I text Jim, I go, hey, that was a really good, and I'll still text him when I find him online. And his ability to enunciate what he's thinking and why has only got better over time.
Yeah, we definitely, to keep getting the media again, you want him to be a bit of a character, so he knows that now. So the last 5 years, he's sort of a bit more up and about, and he knows what he's going to say, and he keeps getting asked back. I think 2 weeks ago, we had him around doing 10 interviews in the week, radios and all that sort of stuff about kids not going to uni, but maybe looking at doing a small business as an option. And because he gives good sound bites, he'll always get on. But I was going to say something back to ask you a question about what you said before about similar values regarding customer service. Now, do you want to outline for people what your values are regarding customer service? Because you've been in for business for 20 plus years. So that's not an easy thing. That's a really, really good achievement. So we're going to talk about your beliefs around customer service and where do you actually maybe see it lacking in the market today from everything you know?
I get asked this question a lot, and I'll make it really succinct. I've done TV, done podcasts, done lots of things. And when I get asked this question about business life, I always say business is about relationships. If you look after the relationship, the money will take care of itself. But if you chase money, soon you won't have any relationships and you're not going to have any money. And so one of the key things that being a gym's franchisee or in any business, you get invited into people's homes. It is the most personal space. And when you actually understand the enormity of that, and in the retail market space, I predominantly deal with females. So in a residential context, they're not only inviting you into their home, into their own bedroom, so you got access to things that literally no one else other than close family and friends have. You need to treat it with honour and respect. And so my values are to educate the client, because everyone has an assumption if they're going to say, I want my carpets cleaned, right? Everyone in their mind is thinking what carpet cleaning is, and it's whatever price is advertised. Window cleaning or pressure washing, or if you do mowing, it's exactly the same thing. Everyone has a picture of what that is. And I've learnt most from my gravest mistakes. And my gravest mistake is this: assuming we're thinking exactly the same thing. And when that happens is normally when I have my greatest trouble. And someone wisely once said to me, who was a very successful business person, he said, if I say the word dog, he goes, what are you thinking? I go, a dog. He goes, no. What type of dog? And I think of a couple. So we had an Alsatian when I was really young, and we had a toy poodle. So if I think a dog, automatically it's one of those two things. And his was a husky. And he said, you see, the word dog is unanimous. Everyone knows what dog is, the word. But because of our experience, we think of different things. And so what that taught me was that when I deal with a client, that if I'm going to do carpet cleaning, this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to arrive at your place, we're going to do steps 1, steps 2, steps 3. Now, as you know, because I sent you some information last week, every service we offer, we have 3 different levels of service. And what I need to quickly identify is someone's willingness to have a problem solved and pay for it. And so by educating clients first, what it means is that they know succinctly how much they're going to pay and what we're going to do for it and what problem we're solving. And so when we bring clients into our confidence, we take time to educate them and they're free to make their own choices. It means that the relationship is 100 times better. It's built on trust. And one of the things that I hear often is, I invited a guy to the place or someone to the place and they quoted this and then they ended up charging that, or they didn't do what they say they were going to do. And a lot of it is based on assumption. And so I've had many disappointments over the years. I've had clients over the years where I've done my best based on the parameters and they've been wholly unhappy. And so in that instance, I make an offer. I'll come back and fix it, or we then negotiate recompense. And sometimes I've just given someone their money back. I hate doing it, but it's about the relationship and it's about integrity.
And let's talk about then your process, because you sent it to me, which we're going to put on the screen and show. But I'll make it clear that it's up to the franchisee how you run your business. There's certain things in gyms you've got to call back ASAP, that sort of stuff. But after that we leave it to the franchise owner. So do you want to talk about your process that you developed? Because we're going to show it on the screen as well, and why you do that process, because you touched on it a little bit then, but just go into a little bit more detail about it, and maybe why franchisees should consider an approach that you're talking about.
So in order to understand what I do today, we have to go back. And in and around the time that I met Jim and I came in contact with gyms, I was running quite a large commercial industrial cleaning business. We were managing about 115 sites every day.
That's massive. And that's how many people did you have working for you then?
I think I had around 10.
Okay, yeah.
And so we ran government buildings, large industrial bases. And I loved the business when I started and ended up hating it.
Right.
You got to have processes in place. But interestingly, I took on carpet cleaning. I added it to our repertoire of services because one commercial place said, do you guys do carpets? I said yes to everything and then figured it out later on. And so then we started offering it to the retail sector, meaning homes and that. And honestly, with the cost of equipment and everything we're doing, it was by far and away the most expensive part of the business to set up for that had absolutely the lowest returns. Now, I had done training, so I was certified by the IICRC because, hey, I don't want to be a Dumbo. I want to be good. And so I was just over it. And I remember talking to one of my suppliers. It would have been a Friday afternoon, and I'd ordered in some massive equipment. And I said to them, I'm over this part of my business. It's the most expensive part of the business that has the least return. I'm going to make a decision on Monday whether we're going to get rid of it. So over the weekend in Dingley, it was called the Great Dragon or something or other, we went to this Chinese restaurant. And I said to my wife, so we're talking would have been 1999 or 2000. I said, I don't want to spend more than $15 a head. So we had me, my wife and a couple of kids. And so anyway, we sit down, we get out the menus and we order. And as we're sitting down and the food's coming out, the food was awesome. I turn to Tanya and I go, hang on, I just spent $25 a head. I go, percentage-wise, that's a massive jump. It was like 70% more. I go, why did I do that? And then I went back to the menu and opened it up. And the menu, they had 3 options. So the poverty pack was like $14.95, had 1, 2, 3 things. Mm-hmm. Then they had the middle one that had all of this. And then they had the premium one. Well, I went for the middle one because it had more of what I liked. And I remember sitting, it was like a hallelujah moment. And I turned to my wife, I go, that's the answer. And here's what the answer was, is that if I am offering a service, so if you're doing carpet cleaning, window cleaning, pressure washing, lawn mowing, whatever it is, if you offer one price, and let's say, and we'll just use a figure, let's say it's $100, right? And you're doing awesome work for $100. If you're mowing, you got a great whippersnipper, you got a really good mower, you got a blower, you're going to make it sensational. Carpet cleaning, the same thing. If someone has $80 budget or $70 budget, you're going to miss out. Because why? You're bringing your talents and your premium service to the table. And what that dinner taught me was this: why don't I offer 3 different levels of service just to see where someone's at? So they may not want to spend $100, but they may want to spend $75. But what are they going to get for $75? And what that meant was I didn't need all the premium gear. I did a good job, but based on this criteria. Coincidentally, I've had clients who want to spend less and, like me, saw what was in the other one and they go, oh, I want that one. And I have more people move up than they do go the other way. And so having 3 levels of service is paramount. And the thing is, you always have to assume you're competing against other people. And generally, when people say, how many quotes should you get? What do people say?
In the gym system?
No, just in general.
How many quotes should you get?
Yeah, it's always the same.
3 quotes, sorry.
3 quotes.
Yeah.
So my attitude is, why don't you provide 3 quotes? And educate them. Because when I have people come back to me and say, I really like say, this middle one, another, let's say, for instance, it's $100. A company said they can do it for $80. I go, great. What are they offering for $80? And I go, what do you mean? I go, what is in their steps that they're offering for $80? I don't know. I go, have they just offered you a price and given it a name? Why don't you call them back and find out what they're offering? And that's where educating clients comes from. Now, not every customer will come back. But do I really want the customer who wants the good work at the cheaper price? I can honestly say I haven't lost a night's sleep ever since I changed over what we're doing.
So any lead you get, obviously you call them ASAP, but you send them the choices with your extended text message. Plus, you've got a really cool video in there, which I think is great as well.
Yeah, video link, yeah.
Now, do you have, is that the standard one you send for every lead, or do you have different ones for every lead? Or?
Yeah, so we keep developing. So just so anyone watching knows what Joel's talking about, I use my iPhone. I have a little tripod and I'll film different things that I do, and I edit it. Now it's all done on my phone. And so I do voiceover. So if you've got an iPhone, which if you've got an iPhone, you're just an awesome person. You've got a Samsung, well. But so I edit everything in iMovie.
Yep.
And so, we're not talking about creating, an epic movie that's going to go to the cinemas. but it's a way of communicating what we do.
Yeah.
So I film it, I upload it to YouTube. Now, you don't have to pay for a YouTube channel. It's a free thing. So you create your own channel, upload it, and then what I do in your phone, in iPhone, you have a thing called Notes.
Yep.
So what I do is in Notes, I have a message. Hey, Joel, this is Peter from Jim's Carpet Cleaning. You made an inquiry about doing carpet cleaning services. These are our 3 different levels of service. Follow a link so you can see what it is we do. So I just text that out to the client. They click the link, opens up, and it quickly shows what it is we're doing. I'll guarantee you probably less than 5% of the marketplace is even doing that. And so the key thing is it's about how quickly we get information to people. The other thing is you can't always speak to people. So I made a phone call on the way here today, unable to touch base with a client. So what I've done is I'll just copy paste the message, send it through to them with the link, and then when we end up speaking, they'll have an idea where we're going next.
It also keeps you in the game as well. Like if they're impatient or they want to get to go and call other people, it still keeps you in the game. And you're right, it's a massive point of difference. I think I've actually started doing it in training. We offer it to franchisees now. If they want to do a video message to introduce themselves, they can do that. And we encourage them to put on their email and their phone text message because it's such a good point of difference as well. It's real personal. It doesn't have to be anything flash. On your phone actually makes it seem like they're more connected as opposed to a really well-produced thing. And it's really easy to do. But as you said, I reckon less than 5% are doing it. And when I get marketed to a lot on LinkedIn, as you can imagine in my role, I always will give time to someone who does me a custom, like a little Loom video or something like that, where they're actually talking about my problem as opposed to the generic spam messages is all you get. And I think it's a massive point of difference. And I think it's a really little one that people can do. But I don't see it. That's why I wanted to get interview because when I got there, I was thinking, this is great. This is the first time I've ever seen this from a franchisee. And I think franchisees in gyms in some divisions are a little bit spoiled because obviously the leads come through 40, 50 a month and the person just wants gyms. But when I saw it, I thought it was a really great skill for someone to develop that extra marketing that they can do themselves really easily if you've just described the process.
I think one of the key, you touched on something there. In gyms, we get a little bit spoilt. I spoke to you the other day about going through challenging economic times. I've been around long enough to experience where the economy dives. So this is a reality, is that we do have leads come through. And compared to some other people who have a lot, but it doesn't mean they're quality leads. So I'm actually quite good at converting. And so I probably, where I sit, I would comfortably say I convert about 80%.
Which is great.
Of my leads.
Yeah.
So over the past probably two and a bit years, it dropped down to about 35%. Unheard of for me. And I realised it was largely cost-driven. Carpet cleaning's a very different division from others. It's primarily a grudge purchase. I would have to say over 80% of our leads coming through for those who are doing vacate carpet cleans or cleaning at all. And so there's no loyalty in that. We just need it done.
Want the cheapest one possible, etc.
And move it on.
Yeah.
And so when you and I were conversing about this the other day, is that sure that we still had volumes of leads coming through, didn't mean they were great. No, they weren't. So I can either see that, blame gyms for that. It's not a gyms problem. It's an economic issue. And so one of the things we talked about is when you still got your cost happening and increasing because you're having to take more leads, what do I do? And so in those challenging times, I have to become better at marketing. I have to become better at how I communicate because when times are good, all you have to do is stand at your front door and smile and people throwing money at you and you think you're good, but you're not. It's just the marketplace. So becoming better at marketing is how quick do I get to the client? How quick do I give them choices? Now, I created a slide that I text through to people straight away. So it sits in my photos. So I've got the 3 options for carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, and so forth. people will react to that and tell me what service they want even before I've sent the quote. So what I'm doing is I'm creating all these touch points along the way that no one else is doing. And so then I send through the quote. Now I use software to do that, and whatever those three are is replicated in the quote. So let's say, for instance, we had a house, say a 3-bedroom house. You've got a lounge, dining, and a hallway with carpet. So I know what my minimum's going to be for that. $220, right? Next one up, so that's our base service. Next one up, it'll be at $295 or $330, and then our premium one, which is really heavy duty, it'll be around $495 or $550. So it's actually a massive jump. Now I don't know what it is I'm going to find because I don't go on site. I used to drive around, but we burn a lot of fuel and a lot of time doing that. And so what that means is they'll look at it and they go, okay, I want the middle one. And what it means is that they already know what the prices are before I get there. There are plenty of times I go on site and I go, look, this needs to be a premium service. And they go, okay, go ahead. So that's $550. So all of a sudden, I've moved the needle from the base at $220. Now we're at $550 for a job. Now we've got to do a really good job for that. But what it means now is part of that educating the client. It means that they may have only wanted to spend $295, but because of circumstances, they're going to have to go up. Here's the other key thing with doing it, especially when you're doing vacate carpet cleans. If it's not done properly, the property manager will go back to the tenant and go, this job's terrible, gyms are the worst thing in the world, get them to come out again. But what's happened is that you've recommended one, they've chosen another, you're not liable for it at all. You don't even have to go back. If you do go back, you charge them to do it. And we had that happen at a place in Port Melbourne, still remember. Asked her, did she have any dogs or anything? She said, yeah. I said, has it peed? No, not really. That's got to be a...
Not really?
Yeah. And so anyway, I arrived on site and the place stunk of urine. So I never did a urine decontamination. So the house was an 1890s home, a lot of carpet in there. And anyway, she chose a very basic package. And I think the one she chose was like $330. It just wasn't cutting it. And the one where she needed to do full urine decontamination was $2.5 plus GST. So anyway, I did what she said and she was happy and went away. About a day and a half later, I get this phone call from this lady and I could have held the phone from here. I didn't need the phone. I could have heard her yelling. And I said, who am I talking to? And she said, I'm from this agency, your gyms, and you didn't do the job properly. We can't rent the house out, stinks a wee. And I said to her, how did you get my details? She goes, I'm looking at the invoice here. I said to her, scroll down. We had a condition report. In the condition report, it had everything that we found and the price to remediate the carpet. So she goes, do you know what you have to do? I go, yeah, I know precisely what I have to do. She goes, go ahead and do it. We'll take it out of the bond. So I got paid from the client and then we were there. But it was only because
you had that.
Had it stepped out.
I think that's the key is you obviously prepared this information up front. You put a bit of time in thinking about it and actually how can I make this better moving forward and also have the positive attitude to do that. And because of that step you took in that detail, you've got thousands of extra dollars just from that one job. And because you've given that option, I think not a lot of people would have done that or will go to that effort, which is why it was great to have you on because I haven't heard of anyone doing that. And then that one as well, the condition report, and this is what we actually recommended. A lot of people wouldn't even bother to take the time to do that. So you're taking the time to do that because you know or you can see what's coming down the track, and obviously that hopefully that property manager as well will remember that from next time if they do need anyone. Yeah,
we have. In fact, there are property management companies that are at the top of their game. So it's really interesting. So you have property management companies that just want to get it, just do it. And then you've got those who excel. And it's really interesting. In the marketplace, the ones that charge the most by a long shot end up with all the amazing properties, but their billings and that are so much higher because they're offering security and peace of mind to the landlords. And so we either want to compete in the marketplace at the bottom end, which sure you get tons of little jobs, but you'll literally be driving all over the place, and all you're doing is you're turning over cash and you're turning over money because you just got to keep this whole thing going. You never get off. And so I figured out a long time ago, I don't need 100 jobs a week. I need 5 good ones. And it's a much more enjoyable life.
And your business over 20 years, like, do you want to just give us a bit of an insight into it? You just mentioned you're after the high quality clients, like building, and also probably the other thing you probably should talk about, as you know, is the building relationships with property managers, because I'm sure you've got a heap of them. So what are some insights around those areas you can share?
Yeah, so I would have to tell you, if there's a dumb way to do things, I've done every single one of them.
Same here.
Yeah, not only that, but sometimes I've done them 2 or 3 times to prove the first time wasn't a fluke.
Right.
And so it's really interesting that I have seen guys come into gyms or other groups who have no background and they just fly. And I'm going, how the heck do they do that? We did the same training, we're doing the same things. What is that? That's not me. I'm much more of a journeyman where I live and I learn and I watch what other people do. So we talked about watching podcasts and reading. And so for me, it actually takes time to take that information in. And it's like, okay, how am I going to share that with a client? How do I actually put that in place? And so for me, you're going to be in Jim's group long enough, you're going to have lots of frustrations along the way. But guess what? If you're going to be in business or any job long enough, you're going to have frustrations along the way. And it's not necessarily an organisational thing. It's a personal growth thing. And so I've been through tough periods there where there's been not much happening and there's been periods of plenty. And I think one of the key things to understand is that gyms represents opportunity. I don't think gym or the organisation promises you a certain amount of money. It promises you the best opportunity at probably the best cost base to grow a business and do things. And so for me, it's the comforting thing about gyms is that the value structures are pretty out there and knows what it is. I often tell people gym sets the foundation of the things you should be doing. This is our standards, and then you have the opportunity to grow above that. And so that's what gyms has offered me. About growing the business, one thing I learned is that there are many other really good franchisees. So you talked about other businesses I deal with. So one of the key things with property managers, that you're part of the gyms group is a benefit because they know you're not a fly-by-nighter. And when you do really good work, I'm on what they call a panel. So when someone's looking to go out of a lease, mine and sometimes there'll be a couple other businesses will be the most recommended to call and deal with. So I've got agencies that when someone's looking to vacate a property, I get these phone calls outside of gyms, and they're actually really good paying jobs. They're paying good because typically these agencies have a higher standard, and if it's not met, we're going to be brought in anyway. They're going to pay twice to have the job done. So I use the systems that we have in place, or that I have in place, that from first contact, they get the greeting, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is a price structure. The key question is, when is the key date? When do we need it done? And we move from there. So there's no resistance from that perspective. Also, one of the great things in gyms is understanding who the other franchisees are. So we talked about work I do with rental properties. So sometimes it's more than cleaning, sometimes there's got to be painting there, sometimes there's got to be electrical, sometimes there's got to be gardening. And the same thing happens when houses come up for sale. So I started using other gyms franchisees to grow my business. One in particular, one of the painting guys, we've had a relationship now, I think, from 2019. And we've done, I can't even count the amount of jobs, but I organise it, put the whole thing together. We are well into the 7 figures earned by that guy.
Oh, wow.
Like, seriously, big money he has earned. And so I set the structure up.
And that's via you?
Yeah, by me.
Via your network, yeah.
Yeah. So I create the networks.
Yeah.
I've used electrical guys, used tons of gardening guys. In fact, Bayswater, you're going to love this one. So I got a lead come through one day for 2 rooms of carpet cleaning. And I always ask these key questions. When someone calls and they want something done, if so it was you, say, so Joel, can I ask you a question? Well, they always go, yeah. I go, the work you're needing doing, is this a maintenance job for a place you're staying in? Is this a vacate job for a place you're moving out of? Or are you preparing a property for sale? They're the 3 key categories in the market. There's nothing outside of that. Each one of those 3 things, they're 3 distinct markets. They have very distinct needs and very distinct outcomes. So if they're maintaining a property, usually someone's quite house proud, or they've got a party coming and they need it sorted quickly.
Yeah.
One of those 2. But they tend to spend more. Vacate, it's much more imminent. We need it done. You can be quite cost sensitive, but you can still make some good money out of it. Or you just keep fuel money ticking over in your business. Third one, prepare for sale. That's critical. So at that job in Bayswater, it was a two bedroom townhouse. It was 1 of 3. It was at the top, and I went there. Would have been out $88 worth of cleaning a carpet. It was nothing, but the place stunk. It was a deceased estate. The guy who died was, I think, 61, 62, and his brother, who was well into his 70s, was the executor. So I said to him, this place needs a lot of work. He goes, yeah, I know. I go, I can manage all that for you. He's gone, really? I go, yeah, I've got gardeners. I've got handyman, because I needed some handyman. If we want to do painting, of course, carpets and all of that. And so from that $88 job, we got the go ahead for everything. We ended up doing 32 grand worth of work.
Jeez.
Now, I'd love to tell you that I got it all. Yeah. I didn't. So what happened was he's going, yeah, let's do that. Let's get some pricing. So I ring Gyms National. I go, hey, who have we got that's an absolute outstanding gardening fellow in and around this area? And we were having a look. I go, give me 5 stars. And I can't remember his name offhand, but he was around the Wanturn area. Italian guy. Awesome. And so I go, okay, send me his details. I go, who's a really good handyman? Handyman. Who's good at electrical? Electrical. Who does painting? Painting. And so I brought all these guys on. We got the prices. And it was really interesting. The backyard was so bad that I thought there was a tree there. Like there was like ivy and stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And it would have been a tree stump as high as this lighting array over here. When we got the go-ahead, the mowing guy was in and he's going, mate, he goes, that's not a tree. He goes, that's actually a weed. And I've gone, what? And he actually sent me pictures of it. It blew my mind. But it was everywhere. And he goes, hey, we've got a deck out here. There was so much. The whole house was so overgrown with this stuff. We didn't know we have a deck. So now he said, mate, I can do decks. So this guy in another life built decks. So we priced it up. He was actually insured for it. And we put a deck in. And I organised an agent. And so the house increased in value by about 180 grand. But when it sold, it went another 162,000 over their highest estimate. And that was where I learnt. And then one other job where I learnt how to use the gyms guys. And so for me, it's about using the system that we have, bringing guys in. They get paid. I'm not looking for the cheapest
price.
What I want is awesome work. And I tell them we need to have a sharp pencil because we're all going in together.
It's great that you do that. And it's quite common, I hear some franchisees doing similar things to yourself as well. The customers trust you. They just want, you can organise it all and you've got all the network and they don't have to worry about vetting different people and stuff like that. So it's a very common thing. And good franchisees like yourself will do that for customers as well. And it's great for the customer because it keeps them within the gym system. I was going to say then as well, Pete, over your 20 years, what have you enjoyed about doing what you do?
Oh, 100% customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no point being in business if you don't enjoy customer interaction. And that can be challenging at the same time. I always assume I'm going to have a great relationship with everyone. Straight away. Like my standing thing is, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time. You're going to love it. And it doesn't always turn out that way. And there are some days you just go, oh, why did that happen? And it's those moments of introspection where I have to look back on and say, well, did I miss something in this? Was I too confident? Was my expectations what was it? And sometimes as I self-analyse, I go, I could have done this better. And this is where I go back and have a look at what I'm doing and create better systems. Sometimes along the way, and I'm going to tell you a story that's an absolute cracker. It's the person. So I did a job, I still remember it was in Sandringham. So the guy chose the base, carpet cleaner, it was called encapsulation. And so the value of encapsulation is very low moisture, it's like a dry cleaning. We can get through it quite quickly. So our labour time isn't very high, but it means we can still make good money from a lower cost base. The chemical itself is actually quite expensive. And so I did this job for this guy in Sandringham. We did all his carpets and his stairs. He goes, great. He said, can I pay with my credit card? No worries, because I carry a machine that goes bing in my car. Paid for it, and away we went. Anyway, would have been about 3 or 4 weeks later, a complaint comes through, and it's from this guy. And it said, not happy with the job. I've gone, that's a long time. So he was doing a vacate of the place. And so I rang the guy back straight away. I go, what's the issue? He goes, I'm not happy with the job, how it turned out. Not happy how you did the stairs and all that. And I said, okay, I'll go back and do it again. He goes, what's that going to cost me? I go, I'll do it again, no cost. He goes, well, you can't. I go, why not? He goes, because it's someone else is living there now. I go, was there any complaints from the property manager? He's gone, no, I'm just not happy how you did the job. And I'm just going, I don't know where to go. So anyway, I got off the phone with him. He said, let me think about it. He rings here and ends up on a conversation with Jim. So Jim's taken the call and then Jim rings me. So I put him on hold, he rings me. He said, I'm speaking to, this gentleman. I go, yeah. He goes, just want to clarify, did you say that you would go back? I go, yeah. And go, in fact, I texted him. But I can't go back because it's leased again. And I said, there's no issues from the property manager. Turns out his issue was he paid with credit card. He was aggrieved that he now had to pay for the carpet cleaning off his credit card. It was all about the credit card bill that he had, not the service.
Fair enough. There you go.
Yeah. And I've got to say, in all my years in business, which is 30, I don't think anyone could prepare you for that one.
No, some interesting complaints that come through, but that's something I've never heard of before. But I was going to say as well, the great thing you said then, I think, which is really important, which makes the difference between a franchisee who succeeds or doesn't, is you're looking at yourself and like, where did I go wrong? What can I do better? As opposed to just blaming this or blaming that. Do you think that's the single biggest thing between someone being successful in business or not, is that mindset, what you just said then?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you that if there's no introspection, that will carry through your whole life. So in terms of your relationship with your significant other, your collegial relationships that you have, because it's an inability to accept your own shortcoming. And I think if we have a look at life this way, we always judge everyone else by their actions, but we judge ourselves by what we're thinking or feeling. And so what that means is that you could do something, you could tell me Brussels sprouts is awesome. And I'm just going, mate, it's not awesome, it's terrible, it's not even food. And you barrack for Collingwood, so, you're no good. I'm judging you by actions, right? So, but I could be doing something and you could perceiving me as, I'm not enjoying this, you're not coming across nicely to me, but it's not what I'm thinking and feeling. And so we make excuses for ourselves based on what we're thinking and feeling, rather than asking ourselves, well, did I come across as maybe a little bit forward? Did I come across as abrupt? Or maybe did I not explain myself properly? And I think if we ask ourselves the question first, what did I play in this? Is there something that I could learn? Is there something I could be better at? It's a lot better in business. And the other thing is, I've found, is that I've had people come to me with a complaint or an issue, and it's not really my problem. Like I'll just give you an example. We did a job in Little Lonsdale Street, and the client chose the base job. We did it. And I knew I was in trouble when the guy, I was speaking with his partner, which I didn't meet on the day, but he was video calling her and showing what we're doing. I could see this consternation there. Anyway, she wanted steam cleaning, but she chose, which was our premium service, but she chose the base one. And she wanted to make this about me. And I could have just put my foot down and saying, no, you chose this. But instead of doing that, I looked to create space for her to wiggle out of, because she had come at me it was just like volcanic. She rung Jim's National, put through a complaint. In fact, I got a call from the office and they're going, she's really, really upset, what's going on here? And so I explained what was going on. It's all documented. She had got herself into a corner, but what I did, instead of treating her the way she treated me, I gave her space to recover from it. And I said, let's have a look and see what we can do together. And so what we did, and I was still on site, we moved it up to the middle one. Now, for me, it cost me some money, but what it did was it settled the issue. And it meant that it's gone from a complaint to a 5-star review that was very gracious. Now, it's not enjoyable being in that situation. I don't like it at all. I don't like conflict. I prefer just chill. But when conflict comes to you, you either want to be authoritarian or you want to maintain some sort of civility and a relationship. And out of that one, I got the 5-star review, but I hope and pray I never get a call again.
And I was going to say as well, then what's kept you with gyms for 20 plus years? You always got successful business and other businesses as well.
Yeah.
What's kept you with gyms for 20 years?
I still think it aligns very well cognitively. It aligns values-wise. And there's a business decision as well. So there were times I didn't take any leads for about 4 or 5 years. There was nothing. But when we had a downturn in the economy, especially in property, it's a business that rides on sentiment. It was the ability to switch leads on again and go, let's go. And so as a business proposition, it's still a good business proposition. When times were tight, and I talked to you about this the other day, the cost of the business was starting to exceed what I was making. In that moment, I'm going, I should just get rid of it. But once again, there was a moment of reflection. I'm going, well, why am I feeling this? Is this because of gyms, or is there something else going on in the marketplace? And what it meant was I had to go back in again and go, okay, how am I marketing? Am I providing great value for clients and giving them the ability to move up to a higher service. And so once I started to do that, how I felt started to change. And it was really interesting. The amount of leads I was converting was still low, but they were actually higher value. And so I think as a business person and as a man, sometimes you've got to take the emotion out of it. You need to have a cold, hard look and go, okay, what's really going on here? And so the gym's business is really unique in that you have the ability to switch it on again and switch it off as you need it. And the other things that it provides that are really good, like insurances and the other things. I mean, no one likes to pay insurance. I hate paying lead fees. Like, I want Jim to wake up in the morning, Pete, mate, no more insurance, you're right. You don't have to pay lead fees. And my franchisor to ring me up and go, I had the same idea. No more, but it's not going to happen, right? Because we've got to grease the wheels. But that said, gyms is about opportunity. It's never about guarantees. And pulling out of it doesn't guarantee your success. Being in it doesn't guarantee your success either. It provides opportunity. And so I think, like in any relationship, you're in a long-term marriage, you still have to keep looking for ways to make it work.
I think it's a great comment you said about it. Will give you the opportunity because we don't want to try and sell it to people. It's a sure thing. You rock up and you think it's going to be a success. And I think that's the point. Is it's an opportunity, and you've always got to constantly look at how you can do things better and improve. And I think franchisees who don't succeed in the system, they don't have that. And that's the thing. We've got to get better at screening, and hopefully content like this can help people have a good hard look at themselves before even doing a franchise. Because if they come in with that mindset where it's just a layup and they don't have to do anything, or we're just going to hand everything to them, they're not going to succeed, which is a big problem.
I'm going to tell you a story. So would have been about, I reckon around 2003, 2004, we were going through a drought. It was like chronic. And I got a call from Jim, and he said, mate, he goes, he didn't say mate because that's not how he articulates.
No, definitely not.
But he said, Pete, can I talk to you at the office? So we're in Bayswater then.
Yep.
I felt like I was going to the headmaster's office. What did I do?
Never a good thing to be to the office,
and so whilst in there, and he said, look, he goes, really tough for the mowing guys. He said, do you mind if they do window cleaning? Now, in the cleaning division, so you have to imagine back then, it was just cleaning and you did everything. It wasn't a million different divisions under that. And I said, so are we talking about from leads coming through, or if they're on a site already and there's an opportunity to clean glass, they want to do that? And he wasn't quite sure where that was going to sit yet. I said, my inclination is no for leads. But if they're already there, I'm sort of like 50-50 on that one. I go, let me think about it for a few days. And so I went away, and the next day I'm in Wantirna, and I'm in this like milk bar thing there. It was a bit more, it was like a deli milk bar. And I waltzed on in, and I still remember this bloke. Geez, he would have been about 5'10". He was a mowing guy. And the weather was stinking hot. And this guy, man, he was smoother than cream cheese on a bagel. I could go in there, he was dressed, he was in his mowing stuff, but he looked neat. And so anyway, we ended up having a conversation. And I said, so how long have you been in gyms? He goes, 10 months. I go, how are you finding it with the mowing? Because my mind is like, you're at the salvos, you're getting food packages. He goes, mate, I can't even keep up. I go, what do you mean? So we're walking out, and we walked down, and you had two vehicles out there. Both the vehicles had these trailers on the back. And have you ever seen like those big water tanks where they've got the cages around them? And they're full of water. Okay, what are you doing? He goes, I water people's gardens at night and mow them through the day. And I've gone, what? Because back then you couldn't water your own gardens. I go, what are you doing? So before that, he was he'd been a butcher, and wanted to get out of it, sick of the 3 a.m. starts. And he went to Holmes Glen and did a course in permaculture and something else. And so he goes, yeah, so I started writing my business plan. I thought I'd learn. He goes, Jim's hands down. He looked at all the other franchises. He goes, Jim's hands down is the best. He goes, I researched them all. He goes, it was an easy decision for me. And he goes, anyway, he goes, I bought in, and he goes, the price was good because everything was tough. And he goes, I started offering a watering service. And I go, where do you get water from? He goes, over the other side of town, you can get a bore. And he goes, there's this content that it's got in bore water that can be really detrimental. He goes, this one's quite soft. He goes, so I fill it up. And he goes, I mix in a wetting agent. And he goes, I go over night time amongst my clients and water all their gardens. And he goes, it grows like crazy. And he goes, and then I do it. And he goes, I'm just knocking on doors, doing what we're trained to do. And he goes, this lady goes, yeah, do that. She had a garden. It was looking sick. So anyway, I do her garden. Turns out that she's the PA to the guy that runs this huge company. And she's showing photos of her garden. He goes, could you get him to come and quote my gardens? Now, he's off St. George's Road in Toorak. So they have like acres. So he goes in there and quotes this guy, and he starts watering his garden.
Yep.
He goes, this is a really big garden. He goes, now in Toorak, he goes, if someone's garden's looking good, the other one wants their garden. He goes, so now we're going up and down. He goes, that's why I had to put more people on. He goes, I've never been busier. This is like in his 10 months. And so the point of that story is he thought laterally. He did something literally that no one else had done. Jim's provided the opportunity. He knew it. It was a great foundation for him to grow, but he used lateral thinking and doing things that no one else was doing to become successful. So I remember telling Jim about this. And he goes, that's a great idea. And I go, about the windows, I'm okay if they're on site and they're doing it because we're not losing out of that. But I'm still keen for my window cleaning guys to do window cleaning.
Yeah.
And so that guy taught me a lot about business and about myself and to think differently. And Jim's is great like that because Jim doesn't put a cap. There are other franchise businesses that are so codified that it takes creativity away.
100%. And I think that's a really good point. I'm glad you said that. And people get frustrated sometimes because we are pretty loose with a lot of things and they want policies and procedures, but then people who have that, it restricts creativity. I think it's a great point what you said. And I think in the system, we've had so many ideas and services created from people like that, and they tell Jim what they're doing, and then all of a sudden it's implemented across the group. And I think that's been the strength to Jim's. And also, the CEO contacts you and asks you about the cross-divisional type of stuff as well. I think that's a really important part of the system because back then, I don't know how many franchisees would have had, maybe 1,700 or something. Still would have been a large number. But I think the owners, because Jim himself, as you know, is a very out there thinker as well with all his creativity too. And I think it's definitely reflective into the system. And if you are a franchisee like yourself or that gentleman, you do have that ability to do it. We don't kill it off. And I think you're right. A lot of other franchise systems are ultra restrictive, and it really just turns franchisees into employees. They've got no creativity, got no control over their space, nothing what they do, whereas we're the complete opposite, which can annoy people because there's no systems and procedures for certain things and sometimes, but I think the positives outweigh the detriment or the negatives to it.
I would say if I was a franchisee starting today or someone who's been around a while, I would ask myself, what have I already got that I can make more of?
Yeah.
And so here's the number one thing. If you've got an older vehicle, like when I came into Jim's, I had a 1983 Hi-Ace.
Right.
It was yellow. Everyone used to call it the submarine, right? So then I had it painted red, it was silver, put mags on it. And the Jim's stickers looked amazing on it. But everyone was driving around in a new vehicle. I wasn't, because I had kids and other stuff going on. But that vehicle was always neat and clean. My uniforms are always neat and clean. I spend a lot of time making sure that when I walk into Mrs. Jones's house, I haven't got the bottom hanging out the back of my pants. It means a lot to present. It doesn't cost anything to do that. The other thing is, you have more power in your iPhone or your Samsung than you know what to do with. Film. Go spend $20 or $30, get yourself a tripod and literally film what you're doing. It costs nothing. Edit on your phone. Use GPT. So I'm used to writing a lot now. I write blogs, I've written articles, co-authored with other people. I used to be a mechanic. I went to a tech, but because I'm always learning, always reading, language just becomes easier the more you do it. But you run something through Chat GPT, and so you can actually download that as an app for free.
Yep.
If you've got a laptop, what you do is you put down ideas. So let's say, for instance, you're doing mowing. Put into Chat GPT, what are the 5 most important reasons for looking after your gardens? Right? It'll come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you're not quite happy with it, all you do in ChatGPT is you write review or do it again. And it'll keep doing it till it finds something that you resonate with. And then copy paste it, put it in notes in your phone. Costs nothing. So it now means is that you take that information and you personalise it. You're going to Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones. Dear Bob, Samantha, here's the 5 key reasons it's important to have your gardens done and maintained. Same with carpets. Whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that when you film that you edit it. It costs nothing to get a YouTube channel. Do your own one. Upload it into there. And the reason you upload it into a YouTube channel, as you know, because you film in 4K, as the files get bigger, you can't text that full file. It gets stuck. But in YouTube, all you have to do is you just copy the link.
Yep.
And you send it to them. And it just works. So the key thing that I would say is understand what it is you're doing. Whatever division you're in, doggy wash. I use some of the dog wash guys myself. We've got this guy in dog wash. Mate, the guy's awesome.
Yeah, they're good operators. Yeah.
Mate, this one guy, and like his follow-up after.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, this dude is psychic. How does he know I'm thinking this? But he's got the software. He showed me the software that he uses and downloads.
Yeah.
The Billy, we've got a little toy poodle.
Yeah.
So Billy's hair grows like crazy. And so Billy had knots because, toy poodles are like wool.
Yeah.
So the guy quoted one price. He allowed himself an hour. The guy was there for 2.5 hours and he went to keep it at the same price. I'm going, listen, man, you got to make money on this. So he upped it, but his follow-up after is off the charts. But it's so, I don't know, it's so subtle. It's not in your face.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like dealing with him. And not only was his trailer neat and clean, his vehicle was neat and clean. He had shiny tyres on there. It was washed. He presented well. Loved him. So what are the things you do for free? ChatGPT. You've got YouTube channel. Use notes in your phone. So if I show you my phone, so if I go into notes.
Yep.
So I'm going to turn this around so you can see this in a sec. Okay, so I have a file called Jim's SMS greetings. Have you got that? Yep. So if I click that, okay, Jim's SMS, so my details, hi, and then I'll put someone's name. Wonderful chatting today. These are my contact details as promised. And then, so this one will be for if they want window cleaning. So I ask, can they take pics? So they'll text through to me pictures of the front, sides and back. And this particular home had an atrium. So if they have something there they don't want, when I copy paste it, I take it out. That'd be great. I ask them to take photos of their home. So I turn the phone sideways. I don't need every individual window, just what the home looks like. And then when you were talking about before the link, so in here is the link that will take you to my YouTube page. I know I've got my phone.
That's all right, but it'll come up to the video.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and so all I do is literally copy that, paste that into a text message. The other one that I have here, so if I come out, so if I go into albums, so if you've got a phone, you will have albums. So I created these menus. So this is so these are all the menus here.
And that's what I want to show. So, that's really good. So we will zoom in on that, but you've got these three options you've been referring to.
So carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay. Espresso, medium, extra heavy. All in dot points.
Yeah.
Different price points. Now with that, so when I send that to them, there's a big difference between carpet cleaning and doing restoration services.
Yep.
So what restoration means is they've got stains in the carpet, they've got doggy doo-doo, wee-wees, all of that. That is called restoration work. It's not cleaning.
Yeah.
So what happens is I send that to them as well. So when I go on site, if there's something that is outside of cleaning,
they're already
I go, okay, this is restoration work. It's not included.
Yeah, but that's a really good point because they're familiar with it. Because the average punter would assume carpet cleaning is going to get out the cat urine or the dog urine or all that sort of stuff or blood or whatever it is, whereas you're already preempting them when you talk to them about that. No, it's going to be outside that for restoration work, and then I guarantee any other quotes they get will not have that in there what they're doing. So I think it's a really great point, and what you showed is a great example.
So that's one for upholstery.
Yeah.
So, so I literally copy paste their mobile number.
Yep.
And I go to hit send, so it'll bring it up.
Yep.
So when I sent it to you the other day, Joel's details came up, and then I just had a little message. Hi, Joel. Had my little spiel. Here's the link, and it went to him. So when Joel's looking at this, he goes, okay, so these are the things you're talking about. Okay, that makes sense. And so all people will do is they'll expand it and look at it like that, and it keeps doing it. And then Joel was able to then go into the link and see a video that gave a little bit of an explainer on what it does. And so because of that, and all of that is free, it just takes a little bit of time to do.
Yeah.
It's your greatest marketing tool that you actually have as a franchise.
And also adds professionalism. This guy's competent. This guy knows what he's doing. He's an expert. The other, I'm glad you mentioned ChatGPT. So you probably don't know because you did training so many years ago. But in training, we actually do, in the session I take now, we actually do show ChatGPT for around 10 minutes and actually have on our intranet, our franchisee and franchisor intranet, I actually have example prompts for people to use. But the examples of what you said is exactly right, how you should use it. The phone app's great because there's a voice thing as well. You don't even have to type anymore. You can literally just press the voice in ChatGPT. If you've got the paid subscription, you have a folder, and you actually leave voice notes in your folder. And then you can use tools like Zapier and stuff as well to automate a lot of the follow-ups and things like that. But ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever you want to use, they'll do much of a muchness. But it's such a good opportunity to really level up your business for free. And even if you want to do the paid version, it's just a matter of thinking about what you're doing in your business and how can I systemize it with some AI tool. And you've done it with your stuff. I'm sure most people can work it out. And we do have the internet videos where I run through about customer newsletters and stuff like that. But it's a game changer because you have a lot of franchisees who know they should send a regular email to their customers, just checking in, mulch special, whatever. What do I write? How do I send it via MailChimp? How do I do this? So now you've got these tools which can do it for you. Literally make it easy. There's no excuses now not to do this sort of stuff.
Now, I would have to say, if ever there's a time to come into gyms, the opportunity now, I reckon it's infinitely better than when we came in. We're talking Model T next to sports car.
Well, even I've been here for 13 years, and even the training from 13 years ago compared to now, it's world apart. We're teaching social media AI, we're talking video content creation. A lot of other things in training stay the same, but I think just the way it's improving. And if we actually look at the franchise system and training we have compared to other relevant home services franchise brands, I think we're miles apart. And the only reason why I can say it with confidence is I go to a lot of these FCA conferences and stuff, and I talk to other franchise brands, and I know what they're teaching in their training compared to us. And none of them are even showing their people how to use ChatGPT, for example, whereas we've been doing it for nearly 16 months now. So I think you're right. And with AI coming in, the knowledge worker job is probably going to be the first thing to go. People who can do carpet cleaning, window and pressure, that's something which AI is not going to be able to do in maybe the next 20 years, 15 years, whereas I'm quite confident AI will take probably my job, bookkeeping, accountants, all that sort of stuff, a lot quicker. So I think it's a great opportunity, as you said. And plus you're leveraging off the thousands and the millions of jobs that have been done, and the goodwill of the brand in 2025 is so much more valuable, I think, in a really saturated marketplace. And I don't know what you think yourself, Peter, about this, but I think the level of trades, I don't know what your experience is like, but in general, I think the level of trades is getting worse because it's so hard to find a good, reliable tradesperson now. So I think if you're half decent and you can do all the basic stuff well, you've got a massive opportunity.
It's interesting you use that point. So when we put together stuff, say someone wants to sell a property, and I come in, some of our quotes have come in at over 6 figures. Now, understand that. That's just not me. That's me bringing the whole thing together. But the great value is in our knowledge. So years ago, I was sitting at a desk and I had, those little sticky pads.
Yep, little post-its,
Yeah,
I still use them, yeah.
And this is what I wrote. How do I use trades and services to sell a home? Now, I wrote this thing down. I didn't have an answer. It was just a question. And I remember ruminating on this, going, how do I do it? And so it took a little bit of time to understand the question. And so what we have amongst trades is guys, what I was essentially looking for is wanting to find trades guys who loved what they do. Like, they love their work, they love working for people, like, they just love it. That's who I want. And so what I set about doing was finding guys, and Jim's is good in that the fluff tends to get moved on.
Yep.
And I'm actually able to ring national and say, hey, give me some feedback on these ones. What star ratings do they have? So it means that I'm finding really good guys. But when I'm dealing with a client or an agent who wants to sell a home, what that means is that I'm putting this whole thing together for them. There's value in that. I've done a lot in the retail property market in terms of understanding how it works, tons of research. And so what I'm doing is using professional knowledge and understanding of real estate, what's involved and how we do it. And here's the team that makes it happen. Customers at that end don't really want to talk about trades. And like me, I'm originally an automotive mechanical engineer. I'll talk to you about tools and all sorts of stuff till the cows come home. I love it. Even with carpet cleaning, the chemicals we use, because I've done all the training, I still get a thrill out of all of that. The truth is, customers don't. And so if there's one thing I could say to any of our Jim's guys is, so if you're doing a dog, right? I don't care what clippers and that they use. I really don't. But the guys that I have, he's going, oh man, he's a gorgeous dog. Billy liked him. So this guy obviously loved dogs, right? He goes, you're going to love him when he comes back, right? So he told me about the end result, not the process.
Yeah.
And so we're doing gardening. It's exactly the same thing. Does anyone really care if you got a Honda whippersnipper or a Still? Who cares? But I've got nice edges. And so what we have to do is paint the picture at the end, not the process itself. And so what I became really good at was creating the narrative about the property. This is what it's going to look like. And when you bring it to market, it's going to be infinitely more exciting for clients. So the decision on buying a home, do you know how quickly it's made?
On buying a home, I'm trying to think about mine.
First 7 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, fairly quickly.
Yeah, street appeal.
Yeah.
Do you know who makes the decision?
Well, my wife did, was in my situation, so.
100.
Yeah.
It's 100% of the time. So when we do properties, it's predicated predominantly on women. Men look at things in a broad perspective, and they go, so we had this, we could put a TV there, put the car over there, and they look around. And this is how things are being evaluated. Women are way more tactile. So if you're in Jim's cleaning, right, I've actually shown Jim's cleaning guys how to do their job better. Man, you're doing the kitchen, you've got to pull everything out. All the cupboards have got to come out. When you clean, you can't just use spray and white. You literally got to scrub. You get a squeegee, you squeegee down the surfaces, and then you finish off with microfiber. And so you can use antibacterial agents and all that, but the surface itself has to be beautiful to touch. That when you pull out the cupboards, there's no dust or anything on the rollers. This is a level you have to get to, because what you're saying to the client, they've got to invest 30 years of their income to own this home. So if you get the best cleaning people, you get the best gardening people, you get the best window, pressure washing, painting, electrical, and you're presenting a home where someone looks at and they don't have to do anything to it, people will pay for that.
I was going to say, Pete, we've nearly gone for hour 15. Anything else I should ask before we finish up today? Well, we appreciate you coming out here anyway, because I know you drove into here, which is great. So it was great. When I saw in the system you've been around for 20 years, I think it's a great opportunity for us to interview and showcase our long-term franchisees and franchisors. It's something we're trying to do a bit more of as well.
I think here's a question. So we, just so everyone knows, I came across you on TikTok. And so I thought, it came up organically, wasn't looking for it. So I thought, who's this Joel bloke? And so he gets on there, and you're really, really good at answering curly questions. Now, I don't think they're curly because I've been around the system, but it's amazing how many people ask a question and they're like gotcha questions. And I could almost hear Joel laughing before he answers the question. But what I think is really good is gyms is open. Why we can grow laterally and do other things, add things onto gyms. Here's the key thing I would say to anyone buying gyms. Gym sets a standard you can't drop below. So we drop below that, and trust me, if a complaint comes through, it comes through. I'm actually really good at what I do. I'll still have complaints come through. Now, it doesn't mean they're all fair. No, it doesn't mean they're all fair. But we still have standards. Just because I've been around, for a long, long time, 2001, doesn't mean that I get to slack off. But the system means we have the standards that we have to adhere to, and we can build on. Jim's not threatened by that. Jim is very encouraging. That's his nature, and it permeates the company. We want you to do good, but we also want you to do great. And so there's no threat to the business. And so watching you on TikTok and navigate that and share things that Jim's has shared, for those in the business wondering why you're here, it's not a common thing out there. People, it's really interesting. I've had some really interesting dealings with other companies out there, and their mantra is take advantage every single time. And I don't believe Jim's does that.
Well, you're right. I think it goes back to what you said at the start with the values. I think we do a lot of this stuff, and everyone knows Jim's values. We actually get people coming in now because they're scrolling through TikTok and they're seeing something with Jim, and they go, related to his values. It's not about the system itself or anything like that. It's always about values, values, values. And I think what you said, you're right. As you would know in property especially, the amount of unscrupulous operators there and also their business disconnects from what they put online. Whereas with gyms, I think we put everything online to be as transparent as possible. So when people come and do training or they use a service, they know exactly what they're getting. It's not a mismatch. I think TikTok, for example, or short form content's great because it's way more personal. You can just, they can follow you online or they can follow me online or whatever, and you're dealing straight with that person. There's no fluff, and I think that's why it's a good thing about the platform. And it brought you here. So here, it's amazing how powerful it is. Just a short form little video can bring you here. But Pete, thank you very much for your insights today. We've gone for now an hour and 20 minutes, which is great. I think it's great that we've got people like yourself, 20 plus years, who are willing to drive in and come and talk about being a franchisee. I don't think many franchise brands have that all the time, and you were very willing to come in, and your advice was really, really good. So we're going to clip that up, put it on the internet as well. So if anyone's watching, franchisee, franchise or internet, check all that stuff out as well. But Peter, thank you very much for coming today. And on the podcast, we appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.